Good afternoon. We have just held an extraordinary meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Commission following the serious escalation of Russia's military aggression against Ukraine. The meeting was held at Ukraine's request. Despite Moscow's hollow denials, it is now clear that Russian troops and equipment have illegally crossed the border into eastern and southeastern Ukraine. This is not an isolated action, but part of a dangerous pattern over many months to destabilize Ukraine as a sovereign nation. Russian forces are engaged in direct military operations inside Ukraine. Russia continues to supply the separatists with tanks, armored vehicles, artillery, and rocket launchers. Russia has fired on Ukraine from both Russian territory and within Ukraine itself. Moreover, Russia continues to maintain thousands of combat-ready troops close to Ukraine's borders. This is a blatant violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It defies all diplomatic efforts for a peaceful solution. Today, we expressed strong solidarity with Ukraine. At the Wales Summit next week, we will meet President Poroshenko to make clear NATO's unwavering support for Ukraine. We condemn in the strongest terms Russia's continued disregard of its international obligations. We urge Russia to cease its illegal military actions, stop its support to armed separatists, and take immediate and verifiable steps toward de-escalation of this grave crisis. And with that, I'm ready to take a couple of questions. Wall Street Journal?
Secretary General, Prime Minister Yatsenyuk this morning said he wanted Ukraine to move toward NATO membership. And I wanted to ask for your reaction to that, whether it came up at all in today's meeting, and whether it will be discussed in the summit in Wales.
First of all, let me stress that we fully respect Ukraine's decisions as regards Ukraine's security policy and alliance affiliations. This is a fundamental principle that each and every nation has an inherent right to decide itself on security policies and its alliance affiliations. I'm not going to interfere with political discussions in Ukraine, but let me remind you of NATO's decision taken at the Bucharest summit in 2008, according to which Ukraine will become a member of NATO, provided, of course, that Ukraine so wishes and provided that Ukraine fulfill the necessary criteria. In the meantime, Ukraine has decided to pursue a so-called non-alliance policy. We fully respect that. We fully respect if the Ukrainian parliament decides to change that policy, because we adhere to the principle that each and every nation has the right to decide itself without interference from outside, and we hope that other nations adhere to the same principle.
Was it discussed at the meeting today?
It was not discussed in today's meeting.
Yeah. News agency Media in Ukraine. Secretary General, we right now in a completely new situation, but I would like to repeat the old question. How NATO can really help, or NATO member countries create this situation? Thank you.
At the summit in Wales next week, we will take decisions as to how we will enhance our cooperation with Ukraine. Among other initiatives, we are establishing 4 trust funds to finance concrete initiatives within 4 areas: logistics, command and control, cyber defense, and help to military personnel, including wounded personnel. I'm very pleased that already at today's meeting several allies announced concrete financial contributions to these trust funds, and it was signaled that more announcements may come forward at the summit in Wales next week. The whole purpose of these trust funds is to finance activities that can assist Ukraine in reforming and modernizing the armed forces with a view to making them stronger to defend Ukraine.
Thank you very much. That's all we have time for this afternoon.
So guys, it's the 31st of August 2014. You heard it yourselves, and I've just made a few notes of what this Secretary General of NATO has just stated within the last 2 days. Russia, first of all, have crossed the border of the Ukraine with soldiers and military equipment. Russia is also supplying rebel forces on the ground in the Ukraine, and NATO sees this as a blatant attack to the Ukraine sovereignty. NATO condemns Russia's illegal activities in these engagements. NATO understands that the Ukraine is not a member of the NATO coalition right now. NATO will also, at the summit next week, be discussing how to further help the Ukraine. NATO will help and give military assistance, including that of wounded personnel. NATO will assist the Ukraine with funds to reform and modernise Ukrainian armed forces with a view to make them stronger. Now, I've got a few questions, guys, as to what has just been discussed in this briefing, and one of the questions I would like to ask here is, why is NATO bankrolling the Ukraine if they're not a member of NATO? If Russian forces are on the ground in the Ukraine and NATO are funding and supplying the Ukraine with military equipment and expertise, then tell me how NATO right now and Russia are not already physically at war. And surely Russia, as a result of this, will just send in more soldiers and equipment, and NATO will do likewise, and this at some point may lead to a full-on nuclear war between NATO and Russia and its allies. Sorry guys, but I have to say this: NATO has no business helping the Ukraine whatsoever. It's not a member of the North Pacific Alliance. We shouldn't be provoking a war with Russia right now. I mean, we've seen a passenger aircraft destroyed over this territory of the Ukraine recently, and it blamed instantly on Russia. I know Russia are not saints, and all I'm saying is this man, the Secretary General, doesn't make logical sense. He's not showing that he wants to negotiate in any way or form and resolve this matter. What he wants to do is put more bullets and guns into the Ukraine, as will Russia inevitably. And the thing is, guys, I can say this forever and ever and evermore, what you think you see is nothing more than a mafia organisation. NATO is run by thugs, criminals, and so is the International Monetary Fund. You know, if you look at the originations of the IMF, you'll find it goes back to the Bretton Woods, and that was all to do with CEOs on Wall Street, and this is the exact same thing. These are your rich people having their rich wars. You know, there must be lucrative contracts involved in the Ukraine, otherwise no one would waste any money in getting involved in a crisis. Let's face it, this was orchestrated from the start, when it was said that the CIA had instigated in the overthrowing of the government. And we've seen America, and as well as NATO, other European nations back this coup. It's just sad that the wicked people of this world are winning. And I did like a comment that someone mentioned to me that they'd saw on a video chat, on a video comment section, that at the moment we've got these world leaders all grouping up in one place, and that they have a 10-mile barricade around their vicinity to protect them. What we should do is wait till the last one goes in there and weld the gate shut, because they'll have imprisoned themselves. And I thought that was a great comment by that person. The other thing, guys, is this channel could do with some financial support. The time and effort that goes into look into these things isn't just about watching a video and making some assumptions on it. I can assure you that I go into a lot of other documents online. It takes time. It takes time to put the video together. And it would be nice if a few more people would recognise, the effort that I'm trying to do here, and that is just inform people to the shabby, shoddy system that we're all part of today over here in the West, and pretty much most places in the world. If we do not spread the awareness, it will never change if people are never aware of it, and that is what the intentions of this channel is. And it also looks out for things that might affect, yourselves and others in the future. So if you could make a donation, it is much needed. I can assure you guys. It would, if nothing else, just encourage me to keep the effort going. So I'm going to say what I usually do, guys. Be safe. Keep your eyes open, and as always, bye for now.